Good evening, friends. Hello, music lovers. My name's Dan. Thank you for joining me here on Soundbooth Sessions, live from the beautiful Sellersville Theater here in Sellersville, Pennsylvania. I have a feeling we might have some international viewers this evening. I am very excited to have Trevor Gordon Hall joining us this evening and going to provide this evening's musical entertainment. He has performed all over the world in over 14 countries, and he's a tremendous guitar player. I am thrilled to have him here. He is a sound explorer and a great philosophical thinker and just a tremendous guy, and I can't wait to talk to him. But okay, so here on Soundbooth Sessions, this is our weekly live stream series where we have a concert and a conversation with one of our favorite artists. If this is your first Soundbooth session, please let us know. Raise your hand in the comments, and actually I'd be interested to see, of those of you who are returning, how many Soundbooth sessions have you been here to see? So basically the way this goes is, of course, you did not pay a ticket price to come into this evening's performance. That is the magic of technology. But we hope you don't think that this evening's performance is for free. Of course, if you were to see Trevor on our stage, you'd be paying a ticket price of at least $20. So please keep that in mind. Trevor works long and hard, and so have I, to make this show possible. So we hope that you will support this show in any of a number of ways. Of course, there are links to Trevor's Venmo and PayPal, which you can find in the description of this event, which I think is over on that side of the screen, if I am oriented properly. But also, down in the comments section, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, there is a pinned comment that will have all of the information for how you can support the people who created this evening's performance. And of course, we hope that you will visit those sites throughout the show and contribute as much as and as often as you are able. And if times are tough for you, as they are for many people, there are a number of other ways that you can help support this evening's performer. You can click around the screen, click on those hearts, click on those thumbs up, click on the emojis, the smiley face, the claps, whichever one moves you. There's a lot of fun options in there. Of course, you can comment, and if I catch a funny comment, I will try to read it and share it with Trevor, or not just funny, but supportive and encouraging. Like I said, let us know where you're from. I see some folks here from Woodside, Queens. That would be my grandmother. Hi, Grandma, and some of my aunts are here. We have somebody from North Dakota. Hello, Doug from North Dakota. Jane Wells is here from Oregon. Melinda, Spring City, PA. Anybody international yet? Oh boy. Yeah. So anyway, make sure to leave some fun stuff there in the comments. If you have questions for Trevor, of course, ask them in there. And I'll get to it if I see it. So, folks, Trevor Gordon Hall is a tremendous talent. He was given the honor of being. He was named one of the top 30 guitarists under the age of 30 by Acoustic Guitar Magazine. That's quite an honor. He's shared the stage with a tremendous number of talented folks that you may have heard of, like John Mayer and Steve Miller and Stanley Jordan and who else we got? Phil Kagi, Tommy Emmanuel, Andy McKee. Quite a few of those actually on our stage. So that's enough for me. Ladies and gentlemen, please get your clickers ready to hit the heart emoji and the thumbs up, and please join me in welcoming Trevor Gordon Hall.
Yeah. Good evening. Here we go. We'll talk later. Thank you, thank you.
Trevor Gordon Hall, man, so nice to see you. You sound fantastic. Let me tell you that. You sound great. Everybody is so excited. Let's get the obvious questions out of the way real quick. Trevor, what's that on the bottom of your guitar?
This is called a kalimba, and comes from Africa, and I've been designing them for about 10 years, I guess 12 years now. The years keep slipping by, but this version I built with Sheldon Schwartz in Toronto, Ontario, and so together it's called the Kalimbitar.
The Kalimbitar. Folks, you will hear more about the Kalimbitar later, I promise. It will be back. And Trevor, show us your fingernails. That's the other one.
Which?
Let me see
Should I do zoom in this one?
Yeah,
right
that's
here?
let me see if I can get a yeah.
Oh, I
over.
was told, okay, this is the bad way to do it. You're supposed to do this way.
Oh boy.
This way, this looks,
How do you keep those bad boys
These are
sharp?
Okay, well, it's the natural nail, and it's topped with 3 layers of this thing called back art plastic nails.
Oh my gosh.
And, I was using Gorilla Glue for a while, but I just switched over to another glue called Bondini. Yeah, I Googled that one. And yeah, so strange looks at the grocery store, but it pays off for the tone, hopefully,
Oh my god. Do you ever use a pick, or is it always the
I
hands
do,
and the
yeah. I
fingers?
do use a pick from time to time, and it's kind of nice. It's like going on vacation, but I always come home to the finger picking. That always feels more, because I have more surfaces to
Yes.
make sounds, than just
I
a pick.
see. Well, Trevor, it's fantastic to see you. It has been quite a while since you've been here, and you were telling me earlier that this is the first time you've been on a stage since January. How does it feel?
It feels unbelievable, and I mean, like, I don't know how to summarize it into words, but hearing the subwoofers kicking in the room, and the lights are bright up here, and that's nice, so I can imagine there's an audience, in here. But to be in a music venue, playing these tunes that I'm used to sort of playing at home in my shed, it's really special, and I can't emphasize enough how important that feels. All of us have been down during this time, musicians especially. So this feels like a real breath of fresh air. So thanks for inviting me.
I'll tell you what, it's a real treat to have you here, Trevor. And I know from previous conversations that we've had that you're a very, very thoughtful guy, and you have a calming presence about you. And of course, your music is seems to be a real exploration of mood and emotion, and it really, preparing for this show, it was a really nice experience, and I had a lovely few weeks kind of journeying through your catalog, and so I want to thank you for that.
Thank you for doing that. That's amazing.
Well, it's been a real treat. So I'll tell you what, let's hear some more music, and then we'll
Good.
talk later. What?
All right, so this tune is called That Old Familiar Pain, and this is off an album called Entelechy. And this is one of those funny tunes that I, got done composing it, and I wasn't sure if I was going to put it on the album or not, because I was worried it was like too soft or too moody. It was very personal. And this seemed to respond, and this is one of the tunes I get requested for the most, and that sort of changed the trajectory of my compositions, making sure that I don't X off when I'm compiling, when the next album comes out, the songs that are too personal, right? Sometimes those will be the ones that that's old. I mean, I think it's attributed to Einstein, everything is, but something about like what is most personal is most universal, and this is kind of like a lesson in that with this tune. But anyway, here we go. That Old Familiar Pain.
That old familiar pain off Entelechy.
Entelechy, that's right.
Trevor, you mentioned that was a very personal song for you. Do you mind sharing
Yeah.
with us why? What about it is personal to you?
Yeah, I was thinking years ago about this when we get nostalgic for things. You know, if you haven't heard a song in a really long time, or like been to a certain restaurant in a really long time, or you know, you look back if you're stressed out about a certain phase of life. You would look back to something where it was sort of the quote unquote golden age.
Yes.
And it's funny when you're confronted with the reality of that again. Like I went and visited my old childhood town, and I have it built up in my mind as this really perfect place. And I went back, and it was really nice to sort of be faced with the reality of it's a wonderful town to have grown up in, but whatever I was looking for is not there anymore. You know, and so when I get nostalgic about things, you know, I'll listen to like, you know, old punk records from high school, you know, sort of trying to escape if I get stressed out about something that's present, you know, in my life. So it's funny when I go back to those, I always have this old familiar pain that, you know, it's not what you think it is. We have a tendency to build up things in our mind.
Right.
So it's tough because it's I feel like the tune really pinpointed that feeling.
Yes.
It's very hard to articulate it in words, and every time I talk about it, I take a little bit different approach, but then the song is like, it just says it better, you know? So there you have it.
Yeah, I read a quote of yours, or maybe I heard a quote of yours, that you feel that the instrumental music says more than words could say.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Quotes are attributed to different people that, you know, I probably have brought up in interviews at some point, but basically, you know, music picks up where words leave off.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that concept to me is really, really profound, and I still am sort of deepening that. For me, music is like I always explain it's sort of like the meeting place of all the different aspects of my life, of being a dad and being a son, you know, being a husband and guitar player, and they all sort of come to this point and interact, and then that sort of turns into music. So it's this very personal exploration. And because I was not gifted with a good voice, singing-wise, you know, I've always tried to really explore the expressive side of instrumental music, and that to me has always felt really fulfilling.
Can you give us a kind of a tangible example of that musically, like when you're transferring something into your music, when you're communicating something through your music, is there a literal like narrative that you're telling through your melody? Or is it a mood?
Sometimes it's like a certain chord, you know, sitting down in a certain chord is like, for some reason, this makes me feel like, I don't know, when we were kids back in upstate New York, I went to our library, had a whole bunch of astronomers got out these telescopes, and we could sort of look up at the night sky, and I'm, you know, 8 or 9 years old, and there's a very specific chord that brings me back to that image, you know? So it's like I'm sort of building this, I guess, database of like, okay, this feels like that point in life, this feels like the tension of this, and so when it comes to composition, it's sort of following, sort of curating a moment, but really just sort of attaching that to musical ideas, and then I draw from that when I'm writing. And it sounds really abstract, but like when it's in the moment, it feels like it makes sense. And then when I have a tune recorded, I'm like, I don't really know where that came from, but it came from somewhere. It came from my past and players I've loved and you know, books I've read or whatever. So it all kind of gets seeped in there somehow.
What is that chord that you referenced that makes you think of it?
Oh man, it's in a different tuning. But you know what? I'll do one better. This is how I do this chord. I actually have this in a new tune. Hold on, let me tune real quick.
It kind of what you're describing sounds like synesthesia.
Yes, yeah, that kind of.
Which is where you connect your sense with a sound. Is that accurate?
Well, you can. So I toured in Greece with a guitar player who has that.
Okay.
And so certain notes, she will see colors. Her name is Eva Atmatzidou. Look her up. She's fantastic. But she hears, notes. She sees colors for notes, and she gets these interesting images. And so for her, composition is sort of a very visual thing. I guess for me, it's much more of that kind of feel. So it's I don't see or like smell colors or things like that. But that is such an interesting. I don't know what they call it. It's an extreme gift, but yeah, synesthesia is very fascinating. I do not have that. I just like moods and colors, and this is the chord. Hold on, I unplugged.
Oh no. Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about your setup.
Yeah, because
I
was switching. I was tuning here to switch guitars. So I put that in a new blues tune I have on a new record coming out soon. But it's similar to, in another tuning, what the other, that's very...
That's gorgeous.
Night sky-esque.
Night sky, looking up at the night sky. Well, I'll tell you what. Did you say you have to switch guitars?
Yeah, I'm going to switch for here.
Let me cover for you.
The blue hour here.
I'll cover for you by sharing some of the comments here in the comments section. Yes. Let's see. Jay Pearson is loving this. He says, thanks for making our lives richer, Trevor. Tim Alexander says, yo, Trevor Gordon Hall. Have fun tonight. Great seeing you.
Yo, what up, Tim?
Sharon Marie, thank you to Sellersville Theater for allowing us time with Trevor. Well, listen,
thank you, Sharon.
Any excuse to spend time with Trevor is all right by me. Tim Alexander, you're playing better than ever. Mike
thank you.
Wirtschafter, he is killing it. Agreed, Mike.
I have to say how tough, because I spent a lot of the fall on the road. Preparing for this tonight was incredibly fun, but also very nerve-wracking because I haven't been on a stage in so long, so I was really sweating it. So if you're enjoying it, then that makes me feel good. So thank you.
Well, Trevor, there's something so physical about your playing. You must have to train to get a song back up and running, right?
Yep.
Is it?
I have a whole routine. I can't cram because it's muscle memory.
Right.
So I sort of, when I'm choosing my set, I sort of pick away at it each day a little bit at a time. Sometimes very slow with a metronome, sometimes very quick, until I feel comfortable enough that I can insert the emotional, expressive thing back into it. But mechanics, it takes a while to get that back.
Oh, so much to talk to you about. But let's hear what that guitar does. That's another interesting guitar. Trevor, why does that guitar sound like that? What's special about that guitar?
This, so I went to the Martin Guitar Museum. I have a friend named Dick Boak. He was the head of artist relation for 43 years at Martin, and a wonderful, wonderful guy. And I went there one day, and he had the keys to the Martin Museum, and I was like, what's that? And he said, do you want to play anything? And I was like, yes. So museum, we had this, I had this really great behind-the-scenes tour hanging out with him, and then we got lunch, and it was fantastic. But there was this tiny little guitar that was sitting in a display case, and he said, this guitar I designed with Sting, and he used it on one or two of his records, and then donated it back to the factory. Would you like to play it? I'm like, yes.
Oh, yes, please.
And so it had this tuning on it, which is called Nashville. Now, the version that he had would be in a pitch, almost like if you put a capo on the 3rd fret, so it was a little bit higher pitch than even this one. But I fell in love with that sound, and it's sort of like if you buy a pack of strings for a 12-string guitar and then put just the high strings on, then you get this sort of... And what's interesting is what is usually the G here in the middle is the highest pitch. So where the high E is, that's a lower pitch. So it kind of messes with your, with how you write melodies and different chords. And so this guitar was built for me actually by Mike Haney. He's from the Reading area, wonderful guy, wonderful builder, and wonderful repair tech. And so this really sang with Nashville tuning on it. And so I have this tune. This is called The Blue Hour.
Do it.
All right, here we go. There's an awesome motorcycle at the end of that one. That was perfectly timed.
The Blue Hour. That's off, let's call up one of Trevor's albums here. That one was off Mind, Heart, Fingers.
Yes.
Folks, when you want to relive that gorgeous moment, go check it out on Mind, Heart, Fingers. So, okay, Trevor, so when you had the inspiration for that song,
Yep.
tell me a little bit about how you take a song from initial inspiration to realizing it on an instrument.
Initially, it's a feel, so I played that one chord at the Martin factory, and then I, went home and, strung it up, and then I'm sort of like asking, early in life I had a teacher that said, play what you would want to listen to. And I felt like that was a really good piece of advice because usually my composition process, if I can even call it that, it's like sort of different each tune, but I'm sort of listening and asking where would I want to hear it go next. And then it's sort of process, sort of evolution by natural selection. The terrible ideas get weeded out, and the other ones, as I sit with a tune, sort of like rise up until it's this, it's its own entity. And then I'm sort of asking, what kind of dynamic it needs, what kind of reverb. And so I feel like when I get to the point with the raw materials where it feels like there's a song that has its own personality and it feels like it has its own breath or life to it, then I feel like, okay, now I'm onto something. And then I just sort of try to get out of the way, meaning like, instead of really force different sections, sometimes I'll, sit down with a computer and write out different sections and then listen to it played back. There's this great program called Guitar Pro. So I compose in that quite a bit. And then sometimes it's like delete, then play for a little while, then come back. And as the more and more I do this, the more I feel like I have more confidence to just completely delete something that I may have spent a couple of days on because it's not right. Whereas before, I always felt the pressure to put every idea that I possibly had because I've spent too much time on it. I'm not going to throw it out now. So now I'm sort of letting the song guide, this is distracting, this is getting away from the core idea. So that's part of the process. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. So from start to finish, is there a typical amount of time it usually takes you?
It depends. I hate that answer, but it's true. I mean, there are some tunes that I've spent years on, and some, I guess, this next tune, this was like literally born in about 15 minutes, because it was a little bit more of an improv. And so this tune is called Chase the Chills. It's the opening track off a new record coming out. Post-COVID, I don't know at what point we're going to release it, but that sort of crystallizes the process. It's like when I feel that, I usually feel it in my chest or kind of like this little tickle in the brain, like, ooh, that's cool, go in this direction, sort of chasing the chills. And sometimes that process takes a very long time, couple years, couple months, and sometimes it's just like, plopped on. And I usually get one or two of those right before I go in to record a project. It's like, I had this tune on an album called Entelechy called Missing You. It was the very last track. And that was literally like the last day, like one or two takes, just go with it and see what happens. I have these loose ideas, and then, it sort of crystallized itself. And that's fun because when I feel like I've relieved the pressure of having to really refine a tune, getting ready for recording, sometimes these ones just pop right in, and that's where this tune came from.
Before you play this, which I'm looking forward to hearing, but in these pieces that take you years and years, how do you maintain a relationship with the initial inspiration? Like when you're so far removed from the initial moment, like
I usually, if I can tell, like I get enough of the raw materials where I feel like I definitely can't play it, but I feel like I like where it's going. Yeah. I sort of just go into left brain technical mode, and I sort of save the emotional enjoyment of the piece until I feel like I have more of it under my fingers. So at that point, I have the initial inspiration, I get really pumped up, and then it just goes into the daily drills. And then when I feel comfortable with that, it's like now the excitement about it is given back to me later, and now I have the ability to hopefully attempt some of the ideas. And so I feel like time and time again, it's like just letting my attachment to it, let it go, and just practice the technical aspects, and then come back later, and I feel like it's even more. So yes, it can get a little bit dreary in the valley of working on a piece, but it's also more exciting on the other side of it, and I've had that cycle enough times to sort of trust it now at this point.
Which is the moment for you that's like the fullest realization of the song? Is it that moment where the physical meets the emotional, or is it nailing it at the recording session, or the first time it's in front of a crowd, or like where is the fruit most ripe?
That's a really good question. I feel like when I'm recording, I am always a nervous wreck, and it's very hard for me to really trust what I'm hearing and feeling. But in the studio, it's different than playing live, where I'm trying to be as expressive as possible. You can do different takes. We're trying to get the feel, and you can fix some mistakes in other takes. But I really love that moment when I feel like I've had a good take. I put down the headphones, I go into the control room, and I listen back. And it's the first time I've heard the piece close to how I'm envisioning it, when I know it's been a good take. And then it kind of feels like it has its own name and social security number and its own identity, And it feels like it's its own thing, that I'm not forcing it anymore. And from that point, the mixing stage and then mastering, like that whole... I don't do that myself, but I really love being involved in that, because then once I know I have the piece down, then refining it is when it really, really starts to take on new life. So I guess it's probably that moment when I can really hear it back after stressing about having to play it in front of microphones.
I can't imagine that with how physical your playing is, like the pressure of performing, it's got to be immense. Well, I know that this is a new tune, right?
Yeah. So I've never played this outside of my room. I did play it in front of studio mics, but I don't know. We'll see what happens.
And so it's been recorded. This one is locked.
Yep.
You've had your moment with this song.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. So I'll do this, and then I'll just run straight into another tune I get asked for quite a bit, called Pine Trees and Power Lines. So this is for Mr. Corin Nelson. I just recorded my last project with him, and so he helped me through this piece. And it's sort of kind of an improv thing that sort of crystallized in some chords, and we'll just see what happens. Let's do it. All right, let's go. If I don't start right now, I'm gonna psych myself out. So here we go.
Ready, set, go. There's nobody here, Trevor. It's just you and me.
That's right, nobody here.
chills chased. Successfully chased.
Thank you.
That was both chills, chase the chills and pine trees, correct?
Yeah, pine trees and power lines. Sorry, I didn't put
Pine
the
trees
whole-
and power lines. Yeah, pine trees and power
I
lines.
just recently moved, so I wrote that in my old house, and behind my window in our backyard was pine trees and power lines, which I no longer have that view, so that's okay.
So we got to talk about all the different things you're doing up there, Trevor. So in your quest for to discover new sounds that guitarists can make, let's see. So far, we've seen harmonics and false harmonics. We've seen tapping, percussion, the kalimba, scraping, alternate tunings,
And the faces. You can't forget the faces.
faces,
That's an art form in and of itself.
and you got
guitar face.
some cool pedals going on up there. I'll tell you what, I have a camera shot that gets your feet, but your name in the bottom corner is kind of covering your feet up. I'll see if I can fix that,
okay.
so folks can watch your fancy footwork. Trevor, talk to me a little bit about exploring sound. Are you? Is it a? Are you? What are you looking for when you're approaching your guitar and you're finding all these different ways to play?
Initially, I hear this a lot with fingerstyle players, and it sort of seems like any interview you hear with them, it's sort of the same thing. Like, well, I didn't have a drummer in the neighborhood, or I didn't have a band around, so I sort of learned to play all the parts myself. And so that is a little bit of a worn-out story, but it happens to be mine as well. When I was a kid, I remember my neighbor got an electric guitar, but from my earliest memories, before I even picked up guitar, my mom had played Michael Hedges and Phil Keaggy in the house, and so those textures were already sort of in the subconscious before I even picked up a guitar. So then it wasn't really forming a band at that point. It was just trying to really explore the different parts of the guitar, and those pioneers had been doing that. And I just loved the idea of like one guy or one great artist just sitting down with one instrument, a great concert pianist or whatever, and just like making a moment happen right there. That was really cool, and I didn't know how to do it at the time, but I sort of I tucked that in the back of my mind when I was a kid, like that would be cool to figure out how to do someday.
Yeah.
And so from there, I did play in a punk band when I got into high school, and played in various bands from there. And I'm in a couple of different ensemble things now that are really, really fun. But I still come back to the solo thing, because to me it's sort of a coming home feeling. I am an introvert. I don't think that's a shock to too many people. But there's something about when I have I wake up super early and have kind of like a little routine that I go through, and music sort of comes out of that, and it's sort of makes me content and feel like my life makes sense when I have my routine and my practicing. And so the music is sort of a natural progression of just trying to figure out how to stay sane in this insane world.
Yeah, I'm curious about your daily routine, but first let's stick on sound for a minute. What sounds are you currently exploring?
I love. I grew up with this like a little bit of a distaste for the whole electronic scene.
Electronic.
Yeah, electronic music, like electronic instrumentation, and then because back then it was like, it's a guitar player, man. You have to be has to be real fingers doing real things, and I totally missed out on the amazing, fantastic quality of all these different things you can do with electronic instrumentation, and it takes on its whole other art form. And I was a big Radiohead fan, and so that sort of threw me in a direction of exploring that stuff when I was younger. And then I got really into I recorded up at Imaginary Road with studios in Vermont with Tom Eaton, and he turned me on to a couple of really, really great records by this guy named Tim Story. Okay. Andy Summer put out this really great record in the 80s. I can't remember, the Golden Ratio, Golden Circle, or something like that. And that sort of got me excited about exploring what can I do with in my mind, and I know this is a bad oversimplification, so I'm sorry if you're an electronic musician exclusively, but taking the organic feeling of guitar and making, how do I put electronic instrumentation around that, so it feels like you have a human being in the middle of it, and it's not just sampled beats here and there. Not
Yes.
that is wrong. It's just I'm really interested in and all the years I put into doing this, and how can I meld with that world. So I've been exploring that quite a bit during the quarantine here, and having a blast trying to just do some. I'm not on the road, so I didn't have the pressure of keeping the show up. So it was
Right.
just kind of explore all these other sounds. And so I got all these different plugins, sitting down with Logic,
Yeah.
and really using the compositional brain in a different way when I'm not sitting down with a fretboard. It's like a whole other thing to orchestrate, and I'm just having a blast.
I see. And are you doing that with a keyboard, or are you programming it into?
Yeah, I program it all on like the MIDI. It's very interesting when I first saw a MIDI roll.
Yeah, MIDI map, yeah.
The MIDI grid. I had no idea what I was looking at, and now when I sort of go into this flow, and these slippery hours go by, and then I come back and I look at this overall grid, and it looks like the Matrix. I have all these like different dots and different instruments, and so now it's literally just me on a MacBook from 2012, just trying to explore. I don't even have like all of the other MIDI triggers and keyboards and all of that, but I'm playing those textures. It's just I'm sort of grouping and arranging them on the grid. And it feels like a weird way to create music, but it's also kind of a new challenge, It's like a totally different instrument.
Oh, I love that. So I want to just real quick, let's go back to that Chase the Chills tune. That you mentioned that would be on a new record. When will that record be out?
So I recorded that. I had a bunch of projects come out within the last year, but I haven't had, with the last couple of years, but especially the last year, and I haven't had a solo acoustic record in quite a while. But this record, I've really tried to make sure that I honed in that there wasn't a single wasted note. I have no kalimba on this record, and I have no guitar percussion. And I wanted to give myself those limitations, and there's a lot of freedom within limitation. And so it's just melody, harmony, and I used a Portuguese guitar, this guitar here, my Sheldon Schwartz guitar here. I had a baritone, a nylon string from Ferk Guitars, and then an electric guitar. I had a Les Paul. So it's like really just exploring the focus on like melody and harmony. And at this point, like in the fingerstyle guitar scene, there's so much technical. Like I could never dream of keeping up with some of the technical level that some of these players are playing at.
Sure.
But I feel like the expressive side is something that I would really want to have kind of like a signature sound or feeling. And so I really just tried to dial in, when I got all those reactions from That Old Familiar Pain, that tune, then I just sort of like started going more in that direction with thinking about the melody and the harmony and not as much about too much complexity, but what's the real core. And so this record is an exploration of all of that into one. So that's the opening, that Chase the Chills is sort of the opening to that. And I recorded it actually last summer with Corin Nelson. We had a week up in a barn in Connecticut, set up all these beautiful Neumann mics in this, perfectly acoustic treated room. And then we just took, we took our time mixing it, and it's being mastered now. And I have some videos done for it, but I didn't know if I should throw it into the void during the COVID era or wait. So that's that. I'm so excited about that record because it feels most me. And I know every artist will say that, like whatever their newest project is, but I'm just really proud of it, and I've taken more time on this than any other project. So I
Can't
hope.
wait to hear it.
I hope.
Can't wait to hear it. Well, play something that you've worked on like during this quarantine, like some of this that's been percolating in this era when your headspace is where it is now.
Yeah, I when at first the whole lockdown happened in March, and then gigs get canceled, everything just looks really, really dire. I just really avoided my guitar for quite a while because it was just the chaos of now. I have she's 4, she just turned 5, 4-year-old at home. My wife's working from home. I'm not touring anymore, so how do I figure out the whole schedule? And so I just threw myself into the chaos of that for a little while. And then one morning I just sort of felt it when I went in to have my morning routine. I guess I have this shed on my property, at my old house, and I also have it in the new house. So I have it separate from the house. This is kind of my little creative space. And I just went in, plugged in. I made some espresso and plugged in my guitar and just sort of went with these chords. And I just called it quarantine chords. And it came out in 10 minutes, another one of those. And I recorded it for a video. I put that up, but I haven't recorded it officially. It was just like this moment that felt like a moment of clarity in the middle of all of this. And so I've never played it outside the shed, but I want to try to play it tonight. So it feels heavy but hopeful at the same time. And some of the chords have this like tension in the middle of them. I tend to like chords that have these really competing tension intervals in the middle of them. And when you put them in the context of the larger chord, those tension things are the very thing that make them warm and beautiful. And so there's something about a very life lesson in that. So for an example, if I play this chord right here, one of my favorites, that sounds absolutely horrific, right? Now put it in the context. Right, so that shift in perspective of what is full of tension now becomes the very thing that makes it beautiful. And so I arranged a lot of these chords have that tension in it in this piece to sort of symbolize that in the middle of all this.
Oh,
So
perfect.
this is called quarantine chords because sometimes I just go to chords to make sense of things. So here we go. I'll go from that right into a tune after that called The Meeting at the Window.
Great.
Does that sound good?
That sounds wonderful.
I hope they're having a good time at home. I'm having a great time hanging with you, Mr. Dan.
They are loving it, and so am I, Trevor. I'll share some of their comments.
Awesome.
When we come back from this moment of
Excellent.
clarity.
Hopefully. I've again, brand new, so let's see.
Wow, Trevor, thank you for that.
You are welcome. Thank you. I hope, there's a lot of guitar players. We have this conversation with a lot of guitar players a lot right now, and I don't know if this is because it's the YouTube era, but this, am I playing too many soft songs? Should I do something more upbeat? And I think there's this, I'm trying as hard as I can to sort of just follow whatever chase the chills, whatever I feel like I need to play. And a lot of stuff in the social media era can be, not all of it, but it can be sort of making content for people at traffic stops, scrolling through a news feed. And so you want something that's very high energy, engaging. And so I just want to hopefully encourage any other players that are watching tonight to play what you feel feels right. And if you feel like playing the really nice high energy stuff, or if you feel like sitting with a nice melody, feel completely free and confident playing that way. And I'm saying that to myself too. So,
wow. Usually as the guest is playing, I'm preparing my next line of questioning, and I'm just sitting here like staring at the monitor, like just feeling. Wow. Let me share some of these comments here, Trevor. We have an Australian in the house.
Nice.
Hello, Jocelyn.
Good night, mate. That's the most American thing I could say.
That's right. Oh man, people are digging you, Trevor. A lot of people very happy in the comments. Jim Price asks, "Will Trevor ever work with Will Ackerman again?"
Yes. So Will and we did Mind Art Fingers together. And Will is, if Google him, he's founded Windham Hill Records, and one of my absolute childhood idols, and now he's a very dear friend, and I love him to death. And so we have a tour that we do called Four Guitars with brilliant guitar players, Vin Downs, Todd Mosby, Will Ackerman, and myself. And so we released a record last year, and we toured a bit last couple of years with that, just called Four Guitars. It's a little hard to find in Spotify, but type in Four Guitars until you see Four Guitars on a cover, and there you go. So I worked with Will on that, and then we've talked about doing some other things together as well. So yes, we're always kind of like in contact and working. When can we work next? And
wonderful.
So, yeah.
Steve Rafe loves that tension that you demonstrated back there.
Cool.
Sharon Marie, I love how you marry the dissonance with resolution in the way you create your chords. Yes, me too, Sharon. Aurora, that's my cousin Aurora. I'm fascinated by this instrument and it sounds beautiful. Well played.
Thank you very much.
This is too good to comment on, says Jay Pearson, ironically. Aidan Byrne is tuning in from Ireland and says, this is one of my favorites. Spelled with a U. How very European of you.
Oh, yeah. It's legit. Because no American would, no autocorrect in America would
we
make
wouldn't
it go
dream of throwing that U in there. Let's see. So moving. Jim Price says he has chicken skin. Wow. Fern Brodkin is clapping and giving you purple hearts, and she's also plugging a show that you'll be performing in the Living Room Outdoor Concert Series in Ardmore, Pennsylvania on September 12th.
Yep. That's coming up September 12th.
With our buddy Adam Monaco.
Yep. Adam Monaco. Under the Oak, a little plug.
Absolutely. Maggie is in the comments.
Oh, hi Maggie.
Watching. Hi Maggie, how are you?
They are brilliant. Look up Under the Oak.
They're the best.
And both Adam Solo and Maggie Solo, they're just wonderful people and amazing songwriters and musicians.
All right, Trevor, tell us about this daily routine. You've mentioned your morning routine.
Yeah.
Walk us through it.
Okay, so I when my daughter was born, so she just turned 5, it switched from sometimes late at night or practicing and working throughout the day. I would teach a lot of lessons in the afternoon, so I'd have the morning hours to really work on projects. And then she was born and came into our lives, and it's funny how you have no idea what life was like before because everything else just shifts around. And so my parents, I don't know if they're watching, they've always made fun of me for not being a morning person, and so I'm proving them wrong. When my daughter was born, I bought this alarm clock that simulates the sunrise.
Oh,
so like
how beautiful.
I think it's like 30 or 40 minutes before Your alarm goes off, it like lights up a little bit and then keeps going. And the concept sounds good, but it's this really awful digital light. It's a bad version of a good idea. But what that did, is I realized that I had this rage against alarm clocks. So I realized if I could wake up gently, then I could start waking up earlier and earlier, and that would give me the time so that then during the day I don't feel that pressure, especially mid-afternoon when it's like, man, I didn't even practice, I didn't even work on whatever today. If I get it done in the morning, then the rest of the day I just feel better and I feel like I'm on more healthy, balanced, So I started setting my alarm for 6 and then backed it up by 15-minute increments. And then now it's, COVID sort of messed with it. I'm trying to get back on the schedule now, but it's usually 4, sometimes it's 3:45, which means I have to go to bed earlier. But if I can get, and I know it sounds crazy, and I had another guitar player friend I was explaining this to, and I said, it's not because I'm disciplined, it's because I don't have any other time. And he's like, dude, shut up. That is the very definition of discipline, like getting your work done and figuring out how to do it. So I feel like I need to rectify sleep, of course, but when you have a young toddler, it's not getting a ton anyway. So I figured I'd be productive in those early hours. And so I have a shed, and it's separate from the house.
A literal wood shed?
Yeah, a literal wood shed.
Where you shed your wood?
That's where I shed. That's where I literally wood shed. And my wife got me this thing for Christmas that says, welcome to the woodshed, established 1995, which was the year I started playing guitar. Isn't that a cool?
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thing? Well, that's what musicians call practicing.
Yes,
for anyone in the
woodshed,
comments, it's called woodshedding.
Woodshedding, yep. So I designed a building on my old house, and we just sold that, and so I got the opportunity to design a new one.
Whoa!
And it's really, really, it's an all year, so it's heat, air conditioning, insulation, whatever. And it's a really, really cool space that instead of like a normal A-frame kind of shed-looking thing, it's like this single pitch roof that has these like really nice big windows on the top, so I get a lot of natural daylight. And as the sun comes up, there's like because of the windows on top of this building, it's sort of a sundial, and I can tell when the light gets to a certain point on my desk that it's time to wrap it up, and then I can do what has to be done for the rest of the day. But I found when I'm routinely doing that, it may sound, everybody says to be disciplined, you have to sort of like, you just bite the bullet and do what you have to do. But find something that, I enjoy the feeling while I'm practicing, while I'm playing, and I enjoy the feeling after, and I enjoy the feeling of not having the pressure the rest of the day to find time to do that. So in the end, it's actually an easy decision. And finding those things in your life that are those easy decisions instead of like, well, I guess I just need to go to boot camp and do the hard work,
Right.
So that sort of keeps me ignited because I see the results from it and I feel like I make progress. Now, throw COVID in the middle of all of that, oh yeah, that gets real messed up. But I'm getting back on track and creating, and so it's I'll keep doing that.
So now, does your routine extend? So you get up at 4. Now, are you starting with scales, or
I
arpeggios?
start with espresso. That is the most important.
Very
thing.
important.
Yes. I start with espresso, and then typically from there, like I kind of have like a couple of books, read sections of. I really a couple of years ago I rediscovered the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, and
oh my gosh,
little small chunks from them, something to just get the mind sort of recentered. And then I kind of have like a meditation routine, and then usually I sit down and sort of plan, what are the projects I'm working on, what do I have to do, and so I do technical exercises, composition, and so my routine, it varies day to day, but it sort of is centered around keeping myself ignited to want to continue. So instead of taking a really long chunk on one thing, I sort of limit myself to 15 to 20 minutes on an item, and then I drop it as soon as that 20 minutes comes up because it makes me more excited to get back to it the next day.
Wow.
And so I'm sort of trying to build in, like I probably get more done if I were to just focus on one thing at a time, then go on to the next. But I really enjoy keeping the will engaged if I cut myself off and then the next day. And so keeping your will to want to play is one of the most difficult things. So you have to sort of trick the brain into keeping it going, especially in the midst of craziness.
And you probably wind up playing more in 1 week by doing it a little bit every day.
Yeah, and if I spend an hour on one item,
Yeah.
or I spend 20 minutes 3 different days, those 20 minutes are a whole lot more focused and more progress than an hour where I'm kind of coming, if I do just an hour, I'm coming in and out of focus, you know, so it's a much more productive time.
Is this a process that you developed yourself, or are you following somebody's example with this?
It's, you know, I read this book by, I had a great, awesome guitar teacher. I still get, I'm still, you know, he was a very deep well. His name's Don Reese. He's from Lansdale.
Yes.
You know him, Don Reese?
He's from Lansdale, Pennsylvania?
Yeah, Lansdale, Pennsylvania. Yeah, Don Ross. This is Don Reese.
Oh, Don Reese.
Yeah, Don Reese. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I might know Don Reese. I'm from Lansdale.
Oh, nice. He now he owns Stewart's Music.
Oh, yes.
And
Then I do know Don Reese.
He's
Whoa.
just, oh man, he's just a deep well of information. And so I studied with him for about 5 or 6 years. And he gave me this book by Jack Grassel called Power Practicing.
Okay.
And it sort of talked about that concept and a bunch of others. And so I tried for years all these different sort of routines. And I remember hearing Steve Jobs woke up really early in the morning. And so I just started experimenting with people that I felt like were really productive workers. But I don't want to just be productive. I still want to be emotionally balanced, because sometimes it can go the other way. But yeah, that sort of got me going on that, and then I've sort of just experimented with different ways. And I call this the my method. I call it the I do a bunch of workshops, and I call it the sort of like structured spontaneity. So I have a master plan of things I'm working on, but each day it's spontaneous of what I feel like working on at that point. And so you can sort of dial in more spontaneity or more structure depending on what you want, and depending on your temperament too. It's important to find a practice approach. I don't even want to say routine, because that still gets into the whole boot camp thing, but a practice approach that fits how your personality temperament. That's a big thing. Yeah,
It's a lot to...
It is a lot.
It
is a lot. When I start talking about it, I'm like, wow, okay, there is a lot there. So I hope we haven't bored the people.
Oh, no. That was... I think
love
we've all
talking about this
learned
stuff.
something.
I am a card-carrying nerd, and I will talk about this stuff.
I'm literally writing notes to myself to like things to check out.
It's a TED Talk. It turned into a TED Talk right now.
Absolutely. Trevor, what are you going to play for us next?
All right, we're going to do a tune called Turning Ruts into Grooves. And this
What
was...
a title.
This was a tune where I had writer's block, and the only thing I did was take one idea and just kept playing it every day until another idea sort of broke through, and another idea sort of broke through. So it's Turning Ruts into Grooves.
Great title.
Life gives you lemons, whatever. You get what I'm trying to say. So here we go, Turning Ruts into Grooves.
Trevor Tunes. Remember, folks, please make sure that you visit Trevor's PayPal and Venmo, and visit trevorgordonhall.com to have access to all things Trevor. You can hear about all of his great projects. He has quite a few out there in many different arrangements. Got a bunch of solo acoustic stuff. He's got some really interesting projects, collaborations he's done. Electronic music stuff. Infinite Jigsaw is super cool. And some electric guitar work that you guys will absolutely dig. How you doing, Trevor?
I'm doing great.
Great.
I'm doing great. All right, we ready to...
Yes, turning ruts into grooves. Hearts into Grooves.
There is a towel on a microphone stand right here, and it looks just like a cartoon ghost. So it's like just keeps catching my peripheral. And anyway, it's so funny.
Trevor, that you added a nice little sound effect to that song that I was enjoying earlier. How were you making that little?
This is called the
clink,
plinkadink.
The plinkadink.
The plinkadink.
Plank.
This is if you play behind, so the nut here sort of, as the strings come out of the tuners, then this sort of gets them onto the fretboard. And if you play behind them, it gives you all kinds of other sounds. And so I was just exploring it percussively. How do I use that?
Yeah.
And so I was doing this pattern that was like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then thinking about this 1, 2, 3, 4, and this took me so long, but it was such a fun groove. And so the whole song was sort of born from that groove.
Very nice. Oh, Trevor, Don Reese is in the comments section.
He is! Don Reese.
Loving the stories and the music, Trevor. Thanks for the mention.
Oh, man. Don Reese. Moment of silence. I love you, brother. Thank you for everything.
Wow. So, Trevor, I do know that you are, it's apparent from the way that you're speaking, but you're a wonderful thinker, and no wonder if you're reading these incredible texts every day. Tell me a little bit. I know absolutely nothing about what the Stoics, what you just mentioned. Can you tell us a little bit about what it is that you're reading these days, and what are the ideas that you're thinking about? How are they informing your practice and your day-to-day?
Well, the Stoics were like, it's a school, a sort of group of thinking in philosophy in ancient Greece and Rome. And sometimes when you read stuff from back then, obviously it's translated to English, and it can get really complex quickly if you read Aristotle or Plato. And some of that stuff is absolutely fantastic, but sometimes you really have to have quite a bout of insomnia to really sit down and read some of those books. But what I love about the Stoics is it's not philosophy of just contemplating, not just what is the meaning of life and existence, and that the love of wisdom. That's what the word philosophy means. But the Stoics were all about a very practical, how do you live a simple, good life now? So it sort of clears away a lot of the other clutter. Marcus Aurelius has this quote, something along the lines of like, why don't we stop debating what it means to be a good person and start being one? So there's a lot of these really sobering thoughts that sort of clear away a lot of the other stuff. And I know from that point in philosophy, it gets very complex. And then you get all throughout Europe and the UK, and it gets, debating all of these different, what a certain term, what a word means, and all of that. And I love all that stuff too, but something about the Stoics really clears that out of the way, and it's more like, what does it really mean to live a good life? And so I read that, just sections from there. I really like this thinker in the UK named Alain de Botton, and he has, it's called The School of Life. He had this book come out that's sort of drawing on some of the ancient Greek thinkers, but he's a philosopher, but it's a very much practical book about emotional intelligence and what philosophy has to say about that. And so those things are, like, again, when I'm chasing the chills, I'm doing it in music, I'm doing it in a movie, a show. I am a dad now, so I cry when I watch a Disney movie. That gives me the chills.
Big time.
And anyone who thinks that's funny doesn't have a daughter, right? Because when you have a daughter, you just turn into this puddle of goo, So I find that there. I find it in a book I'm reading. I'm always trying to find an idea or something that sort of gives that chill. So that's why I like to start my day when I'm really into the routine, thinking that way, because it sort of sets the tone of the day that this is not just about whatever chaos I'm worried about. It's like what sort of brings me back to this recalibrating. What does it really mean to live a good life today? What can I do right now? And I find that to be, it's not a positive, it's not like the positive thinking school of you can be anything you want kind of thing. The Stoics are very, it's just learning to catch your mind playing tricks on you and how to get back, sort of recalibrating how to get back to living a good, simple life now. I think it's worth looking. Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus are two of my favorites of the Stoics. So look them up. You don't have to have a philosophy degree to enjoy them. They're very, very good, clean, just really distilled good thinkers.
Well, thank you for those recommendations.
Sure.
I certainly will. We can all use that type of advice these days, I think.
Oh, yeah.
This type of clean thinking.
Yes.
All right. Oh, I got a new one for us.
Yeah,
right?
I'm so nervous to play this. I hope everyone's having fun. I hope we're not overstaying our welcome.
Not at all.
I say that seriously, but I also say that because if somebody says they're done, that gives me a way out. I don't have to play this brand new song.
No. Oh, you have to play it. You must.
Man.
It was in the contract. Didn't you read it? Trevor, it's 10:45 on a Saturday night during a quarantine.
Gosh.
What else do we have to do but sit here and listen to
That's true.
gorgeous music and with centering philosophy behind it? This is what we all need.
Well, Don Reese, I don't know if he remembers this, but I thought this was a really interesting concept. I was studying, we were going through Invention in D minor by Bach years ago.
Okay.
And the interesting thing about the way that Bach would write, and there's many, many better Bach scholars who will either back me up or say I'm completely wrong, but hang with me. I remember on the second page when we were going through it, Bach would, if you look at one note after another, Bach would introduce a concept, introduce an idea. And then every note from that, every first note of the measures after that was outlining the same melody he introduced. So there's this kind of melody that's happening one note after another, but if you zoom out and look at the big picture, there's also a melody happening with the first note of each measure. And I thought that was such a cool way of thinking of... I've been thinking since I had my daughter, and I've been thinking about the blur of every single moment, one after another. And she's 5 already; it goes so fast. But when you zoom out, you can start to see a little bit more of the overall theme of her life, and me becoming a father. And so I like that idea of like one note after another. But when you zoom out, there's some larger things happening, and there's different musical structures that do that. And I was just attempting to try to write that way. So, life is about, whether we like it or not, you go one day to the next, and it sort of just pushes you into the next day. There's momentum, and then so that's kind of like the duration, and then there's a depth dimension of life. And so this tune is called Momentum and Meaning. So sort of grabbing a couple of those concepts. So I'm so nervous to play it now. Someone give me a rock and roll emoji, and I will do it.
Give us some rock and roll horns in the comments. There's some prayer hands, Trevor. I saw that. Sharon Marie says you have to play it.
All right, for Sharon. Okay, I will do that. All right, so this is Momentum and Meaning. This is on the new record, so there's a very good version of it on the CD. Let's see if I can make a good one now. Here we go.
You did it. Momentum and meaning. Trevor, how did that go from your perspective? Let me tell you, that was pretty darn great.
A couple of parts. So I'll get back to the woodshed on those. But in general, I was a little bit surprised watching the fingers. Sometimes the fingers get stage fright when you train the muscle memory. They're like, come on, trust us. We know what we're doing. But then your brain is like, wait, but what's coming next? And then your fingers start to second guess themselves. And, but you got to trust the muscle memory, and I did. So.
Your brain gets in the way of the muscles. Well, so it strikes me as I watch you do that, like your pieces, I said this earlier, that there's such a physicality and they're so highly technical to play. Do you essentially have to learn how to play your own songs?
Absolutely.
Like when you're writing?
Yeah. I used to, part of my writing process was, working out all the ideas and then either getting a metronome going or, as we said before, like throwing it into the technical practice side as opposed to just the emotional connection side. But now my workflow tends to be working with Guitar Pro, where I'm actually sort of writing it out in software and consulting the guitar the whole time. And so I know the ideas that I want to convey, and then sometimes it's literally printing out when it's done and learning it. And
wow.
Yeah, but I feel like I make less guitar-y decisions doing it that way. So I'm not staying with the familiar shapes. I'm actually the sound, and I'm consulting the neck to see what is physically possible. Whether I can play it or not is a different story, but whether it seems possible, and are there any harmonics or open strings that can sort of enhance the melody. I always try to craft things around the melody. But yeah, it really is sitting down and having to learn stuff that I can't play yet, but I know when I get it, hopefully it will sound good,
Amazing. So actually, maybe this is a moment to talk about what jam play is. When you Trevor, tell us, what is jam play?
So jam play is an online music lessons, guitar lessons, and bass and vocals and stuff, online lesson database. And they recently joined with TrueFire, so now they are kind of like the largest online guitar lesson company. And I did a course with them last year called Building or Crafting Fingerstyle Melodies. Mm-hmm. And then literally the week before the shutdown happened, and that's about, you can get it on Jamplay, you can get it on my website as well. That all goes through with Jamplay, and there's, multiple camera angles, and we break down, from hold your hand in this position all the way up to playing, a couple of tunes. And so it's a big, long course of like 30 or 40 lessons. So then that was last year, and then this year, right before the shutdown happened, I flew out to Colorado, where they're from, and just love. They're like a brotherhood. I just absolutely love them out there. We have a good time. But I recorded 3 courses in 1 week, so that was 90 lessons.
Oh my gosh!
And then all the promotional content was like 120 videos in 1 week, and I was like, oh my gosh! But it was so good to get all of that content in one.
Yeah.
So I did a course on chords, and then a harmonics course, and another finger picking exercises course, and then I did a live stream course after the shutdown sort of went into effect, a 10-week course called the Guitar Gym for Rookies. So I don't want to do just the technical. I enjoy doing content for the rookies, just getting started. Sure. So I have more, but it's basically an online sort of teaching thing, and they're such a blast. I enjoy doing them. I get good interaction with people that are taking the courses, and so it's the digital age. It still blows my mind, and I'm a millennial. I'm supposed to be used to this, right. But it's pretty cool.
Now, when you're teaching a rookie how to do what you're doing, like what are the techniques that you're teaching? Where do you start when you're aspiring to play like Trevor Gordon Hall?
Well, this one was kind of like more generalized. So the Guitar Gym for Rookies, every week, it was a 10-week course. It just finished here in July. And it was like 10 different aspects of what I think are important things about playing. So one would be finger picking, but the other would be, scales and arpeggios and expressive things, neck bends, vibrato, So each week sort of highlighted a very specific idea and then broke that down. And so I have some other ideas for more of the sort of, targeted for the wonderful rookie population.
I see.
So sometimes it'll build up into like, okay, here's, one of my songs, but it's just in general, let's study guitar together. So it's not just fingerstyle based. It can be with a pick. It can be, a lot of different things.
Some of your musical philosophy in there?
Yeah, all interwoven in throughout that. I really believe in that, sort of finding, not just doing the grind, but finding things that sort of keep you ignited to want to keep going. So we talk about that, like, here's how to practice this and not to burn out on it. Try this way, try this way. So yeah, it's kind of like embedded in the whole approach. And I find it a lot of fun to teach. I hope people enjoy listening to it and checking it out.
Excellent.
I enjoy it.
You mentioned a minute ago searching for chords and melodies and all that, and I'm wondering, are there any Trevor Gordon Hall originals? Like, do you think you've invented or discovered a chord on the guitar or a specific voicing that's your very own?
I've almost all of. I remember when I was a kid getting one of those giant chord dictionaries or encyclopedias or whatever.
Yeah.
Or anybody who wants to look like a really cool guitar player. Back when when I was growing up, everybody had that giant poster that was like 300 ways to play A minor. And so that never clicked with me because it's like an encyclopedia. You don't sit and read an encyclopedia; you reference it.
Yeah.
So for me, almost all of my chords, and this was such a huge thing about studying with Don Reese, it was sort of like, he said, I want to teach you how to teach yourself. I want to teach you how to really discover these things. And so it was a lot of the chords that I was falling in love with around the fretboard wasn't on a poster or in an encyclopedia. It was like I discovered it, and then I'd bring it in, and he'd help me figure out what it is and what's going on in it. So the shapes I discovered, whether I invented them, I don't know, but I discovered them on my own, and I think that is the very thing that helped them stay deeper in my muscle memory than if I just referenced it on the wall and on to the next. Then, after I get those 300 down, now I move on to B minor.
Right.
And it's like, I can't imagine learning that way. But if you're sort of hunting and gathering, as Michael Hedges says, then when you get the thing that you have been looking for, then it's almost with you forever. And that's the way chords were for me. So getting into jazz stuff, it kind of always stuck because it would say, okay, you need to play this B flat minor 6 or whatever. And I knew how to build those chords, so I would just find, a shape that checked all the boxes of what that chord was, but I wouldn't necessarily look up the shape of that chord, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I don't know if I came up with shapes, but theory gets so complex that it's like, I'm sure it's been done before, but it's personal to me, and that's the most important thing.
Fantastic. I love it.
Yeah.
What else you got for us there, Trevor?
All right, we'll keep going.
Yeah, let's do it.
We'll keep going. All right. This is a tune that I wrote for my wife. We've been married. We got married in 2007, and so our daughter, just turned 5, and now this song sort of takes on a whole new meaning, being a dad and a husband, and it's just we were talking before, like your daughter was born, just a couple of months before mine, and it's amazing how fast this is going.
It certainly does. It is amazing.
And what did we just watch? When I sit down with Genevieve to watch like a Disney movie, or we're watching like Fancy Nancy on Disney Plus, and I'm like wiping tears. I'm like, what is happening to me? But it's, you're a dad of a daughter. That's what happens. So this tune I wrote for my wife, and now it's kind of for both of my girls here. So I'll play this. This is called A Severe Mercy, which is the title of a great book from a poet named Sheldon Van Auken. Check him out. So here we go.
And this is on Entelechy.
This is on Entelechy, yep. That came out in 2011 on Candy Rat Records. And so here we go.
It's live.
live.
Another beauty.
Thank you.
Doug Google Bryant says this is my
Doug.
favorite song. That is a beautiful one.
Doug is a wonderful, wonderful person. Thank you, Doug. Good to hear from you, buddy. Hope you're doing well.
And a lot of appreciation for your description of finding chords. And Sharon Marie going back saying the guitar gym for rookies. You teach by stretching his fingers apart 6 feet apart and asking us to do the same. That's how you teach.
Social distancing fingers, so the chords end up being 6 frets apart in between.
Very good.
That's awesome.
So, Trevor, let's see this. If this set list is correct, the next piece really puts your instrument on display.
Yes. So when I first started experimenting with a kalimba and guitar, I was very excited about what the possibilities would be, but I didn't know if it really was. In my mind, it seemed to make sense, but I could never actually get it to work.
Of mounting a kalimba onto a guitar.
So I bought a couple different kinds, and then they didn't end up doing exactly what I wanted, and so then I ended up building one with Mike Haney, who built this guitar over here. And I actually started that project with Dick Boak from Martin Guitar and then referred me out, and then I ended up with Mike. And Mike helped me construct a kalimba, and I got parts from different kalimbas and came up with this color coding system and this tuning, and it was 2 octaves chromatic. And I knew it was going to be so hard to learn how to play, but I knew if I had all those notes, I could go in any direction. And then I met... which to me, this guy is just like a walking myth on this planet, but his name is Sheldon Schwartz, and he lives north of Toronto in Ontario, Canada. And I met him at the Canadian Guitar Festival, and we have a mutual friend named Eric Mongrain, who actually played here on this stage with him years ago. He's a wonderful, wonderful player. And he said, dude, you need to meet this guy, Sheldon Schwartz. And so I played one of Sheldon's guitars, and it was just like this... I don't know, like the tectonic plates shifted. I'm like, this guitar is listening. It's like reacting. I'm playing it in a totally different way. And so we spent a couple of years working on this exact instrument. And I'm actually building another guitar with him right now. So that's a really cool project. But this one took a couple of years to get the sound and the balance and the feel right. And this one is not just a kalimba stuck on top. We built a couple of different kalimbas, but this has sort of there's like a pocket of air that goes between the top of the guitar and the kalimba, so they both can resonate. And working with him was just great because I would, this was probably 2012, I guess, when we started, and I would hop in a car and just drive 10 hours up to Toronto. We would just spend the weekend building kalimbas and trying these different things. And I'd look at him and he'd say, let's try this. And I'd say, I don't know if it'll work. And he says, I don't know either. And we just sort of, the process of like being open to if this project is possible or not, we knew we were having a good time seeing if it was possible. And then eventually it was. And so I feel so lucky to get to work with. He's a fantastic human being, but just an amazing builder in his sense of not saying, okay, well, here's my thing, I can do this, are you in or you're out? It's like, here's my thing, and he's one of the most knowledgeable people about resonating and frequencies and understanding wood and how all of that works, but then coming to a project that was totally new with this beginner's mind was really, really, really special. So this is a tune called Kalimbitar that sort of celebrates the marriage of the two. And if you'll notice, I haven't played this too much tonight. I sort of anytime I over rely on something, I sort of pull back and go in other directions in my own musical ventures. So I did the kalimba and guitar thing for a while, and I have a whole other record after this next one of all new kalimba things, but I took a little bit of a break and wanted to explore. Maybe this is like a weird YouTube comment thing. I should never read those. But and I got some messages from people saying, like, oh well, the kalimba is your thing. That's your thing, and you just got to keep doing that. And I remember I was in the studio with Will Ackerman, and he said, you seem to really, really latch on to the kalimba. That seems to really that to you it seems like that defines you. And I said, well, yeah, that's kind of my thing. You know, other guitar players, you know, there's a lot of fingerstyle players, so the kalimba is sort of the thing that is like my, you know, I guess what sets me apart or what is different. And he said, I think that's wrong. And I was like, excuse me? And we have that kind of, we're very direct. And he said, I think your writing and your melody is what sets you apart. And I think the kalimba is part of that. And I thought that was like a totally different way of thinking. So, you know, the last few years I still keep up on the kalimba repertoire, and I'm still writing that way, but I'm really enjoying sort of that newfound, like, well, the kalimba is part of a larger subcategory of exploration of sound, not just I'm the kalimba guy, you know.
Right.
So
Absolutely. One of your colors.
One color to paint with.
Right.
So anyway, that was a long explanation for this, but here we go. This is Kalimbitar.
How is it amplified, real quick? Is there a pickup in there?
Yeah, I have a microphone inside the guitar,
Yeah.
and then we convinced K&K to make a custom pickup for the kalimba. And it's basically, I think we got 4 different disc pickups that we have in different spots in the kalimba. We designed it so it's like a wedge, so that the way that I look at it, the tines are straight. Otherwise, they'd go straight up. So that made it a little tricky to figure out where the good spots to put the pickups in, but we sort of experimented. That was one of my many trips up to Toronto, and we figured it out. So there you have it.
Let's hear it.
The rest is history. Here we go. Kalimbitar.
Kalimbitar. Boy, that's a cool piece.
Thank you.
There's a lot of comments in here about the gorgeous reverb and ambience you have, and that it was beautifully featured there at the end. Tell us about your reverb pedal, Trevor. How are you making those beautiful soundscapes up there?
Well, I have 3 reverbs, and I know that's crazy, but I absolutely love the reverbs from Walrus Audio. Check them out, Walrus Audio. I have the Fathom reverb and the Slow. And then I have a delay from them called the ARP87, the ARP87. I have a Digitech Polera, which is the Lexicon algorithms, the Lexicon reverbs, hall reverbs, which are just classic. And so that's sort of my grand hall reverb. And then I have Mount Everest reverb, which is the Fathom that I layer on top of that. And then I have one that's Andromeda, and that's the Walrus Audio Slow. And then all of those mixed together, I can layer them and I can turn them on and off and sort of sculpt the sound as I'm going. Sort of in the studio when you turn up different reverbs to get different moments. And Walrus Audio has the capability, and they're all single units, and I like that as opposed to a multi-effect thing. I never know what to do. I like one thing that does one job, and then I can go to that's just the way my brain works. So yeah, check those out. The Walrus Audio reverbs. They are a sight to behold, man. They are just amazing.
Well, you're making some beautiful sounds up there. Now, I'm wondering, you've toured all over the world. You mentioned there were like 14 different countries you've been to, and in countless venues all over the place. I'm wondering, where in the world have you found the sweetest natural reverb? Like, where have you played where you just
I know exactly.
Blew your head off.
I did a tour with my dear friend Andy McKee. You guys all know he's one of the most wonderful human beings and great friend and great player. We toured together in the UK and in Ireland, and on that tour we played in this place in London called Union Chapel.
Okay.
And Union Chapel is this really, really massive. It's like this really old cathedral that's turned into a concert venue in London, and he and I were both like just freaking out during soundcheck because it was just so glorious. And so I, went home and tried to emulate that sound with my, with all of my purchases. And I feel like the Walrus Audio comes close to that. And there was another, we were in Brighton. We played, I think it was called St. Bartholomew's Church there. And that had another glorious reverb. And then I went to, I had a tour in Greece, and there's this really old, the name is escaping me, I can't remember, because this was it was built, this big giant structure, the Rotunda in Thessaloniki, Greece, and it was built in, I think the early 2nd century, and then from there it sort of was, it was like a Roman temple, and then it became a Christian cathedral, and then it became a mosque, and then Orthodox, and then back and forth, and now it's kind of like this music. It's an unbelievable structure, and when I was there, a friend said, "Get your guitar, and we're not going to ask permission, we'll ask forgiveness. Let's just get your guitar in there, and I want you to hear the sound of this room." And I stood in the very center of it. I have a video on it. You have to scroll through my Instagram, but I have a video of just playing in this massively huge room, and you feel all the history in there, but hearing those notes unamplified swirling around, it's like it was yet again another one of those, like, okay, I really got to figure out how to fine-tune that, how to get that sound in my live rig. And this is like the closest that I can get, but it's still far away,
Oh, man. Well, Trevor, listen, I have enjoyed this so tremendously. Folks in the crowd have absolutely been loving it too. Lynn Philman says, "Thanks, Trevor Gordon Hall. Thanks, Dan. Another great show." Thank you, Lynn. I appreciate that. Jim Price loves that beautiful reverb and delay. A lot of people saying this has been a wonderful evening. I couldn't agree more, folks.
Thank you for sticking around so long.
Absolutely. We have pretty much the whole crowd has stuck around here.
Which is great. One more tune left, so don't turn that dial.
Right. Yeah, we're not done yet. So friends who are tuning in, make sure that you visit Trevor online, trevorgordonhall.com. He's on all of the socials, Facebook and Instagram. Some beautiful pieces have been filmed on YouTube as well. So Trevor has a lot of views. Trevor, you're in like the hundreds of thousands of views. It's pretty incredible.
Thank you.
And
I can't compete with, you see the cat on the ceiling fan. Those
brother.
videos just go viral instantly. So,
well,
I got to compete with that.
well, Trevor, you got a ton of upcoming projects.
Yes.
And I'm very excited for this new solo record.
Thank you. So this I'll play the title track from that. And I actually, I did a tour in China, and I came home, and this is the tune from that. And one thing that was so great about touring in China was being able to be in a totally new world, totally different than growing up in Northeast USA, and just how even though there can be a language barrier, and I just loved going there and eating all the crazy food, and they're just such wonderful people, and I had such a great time there. I just had this melody sort of rumbling around my subconscious. It's very. It's just going down a scale, just going down, but for some reason, I just kept hearing this in different perspectives as we were going through. We did, I think, about 6 or 7 cities, and we were all over the place in China. It was just such a wonderful experience. So, thank you to all my Chinese friends. And I know we're just... One of the things that's so crazy about right now is how chaotic all of this is. And so I guess this has been sort of like my chaotic time when I was in China, in traffic, in Beijing traffic, and eating these crazy foods and just having a wonderful time. It was very beautiful. There's a beautiful thing that is sort of like tucked inside of the chaos, and so that was sort of a life affirming thing. When I got home, I'm like, all of the craziness of trying to make a living as a musician, being a dad of a young kid, and all of that. It's like, this is a very beautiful time as much as it feels chaotic. And so this piece is sort of taken on a new meaning now in the midst of all of the craziness with COVID happening, that this is a nightmare that's happening, but I hope that there can be some beauty that comes out of it. I think one central insight to me is that however things presently are, they will never stay that way. So if things are really, really good, buckle up, because it can get pretty rocky pretty quickly, and I think that's where we're at. But if things are bad, they will get better. So again, not trying to control the moment, but just saying this is chaos right now. Is there beauty inside of that? And so all of that was sort of put into this piece, and then it sort of took on this new life during the midst of all this. So I hope it is a little bit heavy but hopeful. So I hope that you respond to this piece the way I have while I was writing it. This is probably one of my new favorites to play, so I'll end with this. I want to say thank you to everyone who is checking in, listening. I guess this will go around the dem internets for the next few days, but extra special thank you to the Sellersville Theater and to Dan. I feel so honored to be here, and I've played here a bunch, and every time it just feels like a real joy. And to get to know Dan, who's a wonderful human being, and to be able to hang here with you, this has been awesome. So thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. Great. Thank you for being here.
You got it. All right. This beautiful chaos.
Ladies and gentlemen, Trevor Gordon Hall. That is our show. Thank you, Trevor. Thank you, folks in the comments. Thank you for being here.
What a pleasure. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, this has been an absolute delight.
Thank you for making this happen and giving me hope that playing on a stage is possible again. Yes.
It is. We can do it.
We can do it.
We can do it.
Tune in for the Sound Sessions. Keep going, man. This is a great series.
Thank you so much, man. This is a great episode. Thank you. So, friends, in the comments section, we'll be back next week with more great concerts. Please make sure that you visit the PayPal and the Venmo for Trevor and for Sellersville Theater. Everything that comes in for this evening's show will be split. And let's see, if you also want to support the Sellersville Theater, please consider becoming a member or a sponsor. We certainly would love to have you on our team. Thank you. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.